Oh, hey, look, another podcast that I haven't done in. When was the last? Oh, yeah, December.
Oh, was it the December? Like the last time I was in?
I think that was the one when we did the Power Rangers one.
Oh yeah,
Yeah,
We did the Power Rangers one through Discord,
yeah, but
like this one.
yeah, like this one. But today we're Power Rangers might actually come up because what we want to discuss today is fan fiction. So, goody.
Yup.
All right, so for those of you who don't know, me and Jesse both have like our different interpretations of what fan fiction is and what it kind of constitutes. So, Jesse, why don't you start us off with your definition?
All right. So my definition of fan fiction is someone who is a big fan of the franchise and wants to make their own story, or just to make their own story in general. Another part of it is, well, someone making fun of that franchise or making a joke story.
Yeah,
One reason or one example I'll bring up is Digimon. I recently found this Digimon fan fiction that was literally a crossover of Digimon, Yu-Gi-Oh, and Dragon Ball Z.
oh, Jesus Christ.
Yeah, and there's even another Digimon fan fiction, but it's literally just an abridged series of it. It's like a script of the abridged series of Digimon.
Huh. Okay, so like that's your definition. The way I always thought fan fiction was someone taking bits and pieces of an established canon and, like you said, making their own story out of it. It could be hilarious. Like, for one, I remember one as a kid I would read is that Vegeta sues Goku, and then it turns into everyone suing everyone. Like, it's a dumbass story, but it's funny because like
Sounds
it's
amazing.
ridiculous. It could be incredibly dark and really messed up. Like there was one I read where it was Fire Emblem Echoes, and basically everyone dies trying to fight Yuma. And then you have
Sorry.
it's fine. And then you have like the crossover ones where I feel like those are like the most not out of pocket, but some of the more entertaining ones, at least in my opinion.
Yeah.
So, like we already discussed, like those are kind of like our interpretations of it, and fanfiction can cover pretty much any genre, like we said.
Yes,
So,
very much.
like I said, there's comedy, there's horror, there's tragedy, and there's ones that, for lack of a bit, are just smut.
Yeah, and for those of you who don't know what smut is, and there are like multiple fan fictions, some of them should like have it as a tag and whatnot. If you don't know what smut is, it's basically a whole bunch of not safe for work as a script.
Pretty much, like there's no ifs, ands, or buts. That's what the whole point of like the story is. Like, oh hey,
Yeah.
you want to, and I feel like this is very prevalent for like series like say Fire Emblem, where you have avatar characters, and for like a lot of the recent games, marriage is distinctly an option that you have. So
Yeah.
there's a lot of them covering for like Fire Emblem, and
My Hero Academia is one. I'll tell you that.
for all the right and wrong reasons. Like yeah, that's just an example. But
Yes.
some of my favorite ones cover crossovers because they just seem to
Oh,
be
yeah.
the most interesting. Now, for some series, like say the crossover tag on fanfiction.net, they don't have like a crossover within like its own series unless it's like really weird. Like for example, Persona.
Yeah.
A lot of the crossover Persona stories are in the original story tag versus the actual crossover section.
Yeah.
And like say,
Yeah.
even though they're all technically under the same umbrella until you get to GT and Super, Dragon Ball Z, GT, and Super also all have their own separate tags.
Yep. And that's where tagging just becomes more of a hassle because there are some people who are like, hey, this is a romance fan fiction, but they don't tell you what the ship is.
Yeah.
And I know a lot of people will know what a ship is. For those of you who don't, a ship is basically where you have one character go out with another character.
Yeah.
Simple, right?
Yeah, it's basically like it could be headcanoning someone's ship or how you personally feel about them, because like let's use Dragon Ball like for example. A lot of people don't like Chi Chi, so
I am one of those people.
when they do a crossover one, they usually have Chi Chi dead. Goku never meets her, um, or Goku.
Or Goku just chooses the better girl.
Yes, well, debatedly, because I have the example which I really do enjoy, but is really not the better girl. But go back to your ships. Like,
So the one thing that irritates me, and this is a problem in primarily one of the apps or websites called fanfiction.net.
yes, the main one.
Yes. Well, I use another one called Archives of Our Own, and I prefer that one. But there are just some stories that fanfiction has and Archive doesn't, or Archive has it and fanfiction doesn't. Anyways, you can find a good summary of a fanfiction, and that summary can distract you from a ship that you just absolutely don't want because you don't go that way.
And
now,
keep going.
I just gotta say, I'm not against, people being gay for each other. If you guys go gay for that, cool for you. But if it's like Sora, because I believe he should be with Kairi, but if I end up seeing that it's Sora and Riku, I'm like, no, please don't.
Yeah, no, I agree with that. That's just like a personal thing, all things considered. And unfortunately, I'll say this now, for the Final Fantasy VII and Kingdom Hearts crossover stories, and even the original, that plagues it to an absurd degree. Like,
that's fucking understatement of the year.
It's like Sora, Riku, Axel with Roxas, Riku with whoever else, Sora with like Lee or whatever. It's like, again, we're not against it. Go ahead. It's just like I don't want to really read that right now. I want to read like a big epic story.
Yeah, and it's actually made or break one of the fan fictions I was going to read. So I can't remember the name of it because as soon as I found out it was a gay ship, again, I'm not against it. But when it comes to like certain characters, I believe some characters should go with other characters, and those are the ones I'm more directed to.
Yeah.
And this story, like, in the summary, doesn't mention it at all. It just sounds like a really cool story.
Right.
And then it just immediately goes from one male character touching another male character. I'm like, seriously? Yeah. Like this was the first chapter, third paragraph. I'm like, really?
Like, damn.
Really?
You didn't even wait.
Yeah, like I immediately jumped out of it. And this is one of my problems with fanfiction.net. The tags are very hard to see, especially the ships. The ships are very hard to see.
Yeah, they're...
And...
if you go with, like, the phone version, which I use, I'll read it on the app, for example. But if you go to, like, the website on the phone, the ships and the characters that are involved in the story are at the very they're, like, literally, like, the last thing you see when it comes to a story.
Very last thing.
So,
and that's one of the reasons I like Archive of Our Own, because Archive of Our Own has basically all the ships, all the tags of what what to expect of the story, and the characters of what you're going to see, like, mainly of.
Yeah.
And it has it all in the top under the title, and then there's the summary.
Yeah, which I feel like maybe they should update for fanfiction.net, but they probably won't because they very rarely update the website.
They really don't.
Yeah, I think like the last one was like a couple of years ago during COVID. So
yeah.
But let's like, again, like I'm gonna go to the example of like some of the stories that like are technically different universes or different times, but don't share the same tag. Like for Persona, we'll go back to that. in its story tag, where it doesn't do any crossovers, technically, and I'm putting this in big air quotes, all the Persona series take place in the same universe, just like at different times, other than like obviously like the bad ending. Because like if you want an example, it goes 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and whatever spin-offs they have happen before the next main numbered entry, unless specifically mentioned in game. So like Persona Q, 3 and 5
Q2.
dancing, and Q2. Those are the ones where they all distinctly interact. I'm not counting Blaze Blue Cross Tag Battle because that in and of itself is a massive crossover game.
Yes.
Even though it has P4 characters and P3 characters in it.
Well, that's mainly because the P3 or Persona 4 and Persona 3 characters were already part of another fighting game called Persona 4 Arena Ultimax.
Yeah.
Where, surprise, surprise, some of the Persona 3 characters actually are a lot older now. I think about, 10 years older? Persona 4 never gives you a real time frame.
No, they're a year older, I believe.
Well, no, the reason I said 10 years is because you don't know what time Persona 4 takes place.
Actually,
in Persona 3, it takes place in 2000.
I think we actually do, because in Persona 4 Golden, which is, I guess, like the de facto canon version now.
Right, because it has the true ending where they interact with Marie and save her. Spoilers, by the way.
Yeah, they go to, Gekkoukan High? And you have one of the social links there. She's now the president of the club. After you helped her, she's like the student council president or whatever. And then she becomes, so that means it's at least a year later. Because it might be a year or two later. Because, isn't Misuru, was she a senior or a junior?
Senior.
She was a senior. Okay, so it's at least a year later because Mitsuru's no longer there and she's already graduated. Because by the time that Persona 4...
Ken is in its final year right now.
Yeah. So...
At this point in time.
Yeah, by the time Persona 4 Arena comes around, where her and I want to say Akihiko, when they are in the game, they're...
Oh, wait, hold on. So you say a year later, it's more than a year.
It
because
might be.
Junpei and Yukari are out of school, and they're already. Junpei is part of a baseball team, and Yukari is already acting as an actress and model.
Okay, so I would probably say at most 2.
Yeah, that's why. Because I know when you enter the game, and as the MC of Persona 3, you're in your second year. Junpei and Yukari are also in their second year. Akihiko and Mitsuru in their final year. So about 2 years later.
Yeah. Yeah, 2 to 3, I would say is what it is. 2 to 3. So going back to that, Persona as a tag doesn't it doesn't go Persona, like I said, 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. All of it is encompassing in the single universe that is Persona, where again, we go to Dragon Ball, it will have original Dragon Ball, then Dragon Ball Z, then GT, and then Super as all different tags. Even though they'll put something as Dragon Ball Z, even though it's clearly Dragon Ball Super.
Well, so there's a reason for that, and it's basically has to deal with video games and whatnot. So. The reason, so you have Dragon Ball, Dragon Ball Z, Dragon Ball GT, and then you have, Dragon Ball Super.
Right.
Because of the video games, it's literally different. So, Dragon Ball, which is just base Goku, the original Goku. Then you got Dragon Ball Z, he's just Goku. In GT, everyone calls him GT Goku to differentiate. Can't speak. Anyways, they call him GT Goku, so you know which series you're talking about. And then you have Super Goku, which is, self-explanatory.
Yeah.
That's why they always call them, different... they call, the same character by different names, so you know which version of that character you're talking about. And in fanfiction, They want you to know, okay, we're focusing more on Z. We're talking about Z characters, just these Z characters, not GT, not Super, and maybe Dragon Ball.
Yeah. And like that's just like an example of like, oh, and like I guess like a more obvious example that a lot of people do that we also done is like Yu-Gi-Oh, where each series of Yu-Gi-Oh
Yes.
because that, to be fair, the only ones that are expressly linked, at least timeline wise, are the original series, GX, and technically 5Ds because of the movie.
Yep.
And like it's just like further down the timeline in the first episode.
Oh, don't forget Zexal. Don't forget Zexal.
Zexalis?
Yeah, so the thing about Zexal is that they actually do. So in one of the episodes when Yuma gets one of the number cards,
Right.
he ends up meeting this like guy in a shrine, and he has a bunch of statue figures of different monsters. And you can see Blue Eye, Stardust, and Elements of Neos.
Yeah, I remember.
He has like all of the iconic monsters, and he even has Yuya duel with these like stone tablet cards.
Yeah,
so Zexal is technically.
Yeah, technically, but it's so far removed that we could probably say it could potentially just be a reference for all we know. I mean, it'd still probably be right.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, because they don't really mention like, oh look, it's Zark Magician wielded by the first ever King of Games. If they said that, yeah, okay, cool, it's a link. Yes, it's a reference, but they outright said it's the King of Games, which is Yugi.
Yeah, which would like again, it'd be the most obvious one. Whereas stuff like Arc 5, where even though we get
Arc 5 does not fucking exist part of this timeline.
Arc 5 doesn't exist, first off. But every character that does come back, it's not even the original character. It's a different dimensional counterpart. So even though you have Jack Atlas from 5Ds and Jack Atlas in Arc 5, even though Jack Atlas in Arc 5 is distinctly a bit more nice than the start of the series Jack in 5Ds, they're still two different characters.
100%.
And like the same with Crow, Alexis, and you don't even get like the main series characters. Like, oh hey, where's Yuma? Where's Yusei? Where's Jaden? Where's Yugi? Like, you don't get that.
Yeah. Now, thankfully, like I haven't really watched the dub of Arc 5, but in the sub of Arc 5, I haven't really watched the sub. But in the dub, and I'm pretty sure it's the same. In the dub, they actually explain why. Like, they don't explain why you don't see any of these other, like, main pro-tag characters, but they do explain why you see the same character, but different.
Well, actually, I haven't seen this. I haven't gone that far in the sub because, you know...
Then do you mind spoiler? Do you mind spoiler?
I already know, like, the whole trajectory of the series, so it doesn't really matter to me, but go ahead. What was it?
So the reason like you see all these characters come in and they're all, you know, different is because of the main villain of the series, which isn't really revealed until the final part of it, called Zark.
Oh yeah.
Now Zark was known to be such a powerful duelist, and he went so mad with trying to please the fans that he outright started killing people while dueling them. And he got so powerful that they had to split his soul into 4 different fragments, and that's how it calls the different dimensions.
Yeah.
So you could argue that originally, yes, it is part of the Yu-Gi-Oh! Timeline, but thanks to Zark, he basically shattered that principle, and now none of these other iconic characters exist. Like, you don't see Zane or Chaz in the fusion dimension.
Like, you
only see...
You see Alexis, I believe you see Blair in the background. And you see in one brief scene, Atticus and Bastion. But I think they're both in Slifer Red.
Yep.
So yeah, those are like an example.
And don't forget Alistair Phoenix. Alistair Phoenix is in that one.
Yes, I actually forgot about him because... Aster Phoenix. Sorry,
I kept calling him Alistair. I think that was his like Japanese name.
I think
no.
Was it? No, I was about to say, was it Edo Phoenix? But I don't think so.
I think it was Edo Phoenix. I don't know. I haven't really seen the Japanese. I haven't read the manga one in a while, and all Yu-Gi-Ohs have a manga counterpart that is completely different, but we won't get into that.
Yeah, but like those are the more distinct examples of something that's like, oh hey, even though we're all in it, for an example of a shared universe, even though it has different games, it's just, oh, here's something. We split them up for the sake of ease and say, oh, let's just use Yu-Gi-Oh! Duel Monsters, but we're specifically talking about 5Ds. Or we're going to
Yep.
be using 5Ds. Like Dark Souls, I believe, also does this, where it's like 1, 2, and 3, but most of the fan fiction use primarily 3. Because that was like, it's the one that most people played and it's the end of the series.
Right.
So, yeah, it was like, it's always interesting to see what some people's ideas are. Again, like the comedic aspects of it are pretty funny, or like sometimes the crossover potential, even within the same series, is also very entertaining. And you're like, oh, what would Robin do if he was the professor in Fire Emblem Three Houses? Or what would Yu Narukami do if he met the Phantom Thieves? Or something like that.
Funny enough, I actually read a few of those fan fictions where Yu Narukami did meet the Phantom Thieves.
There's a few different ones. There's actually quite a few. And I do like...
There's quite a lot of them.
Yeah. The one I remember, there's a few I remember off the top of my head. And we'll go back to this as well. But there was one where Yu meets them. He's dating Naoto in that story. Apparently, they also had a thing with Rise in the story as well.
Yes.
And they face, like, Yu Narukami basically immediately, like, nope, I know who you are. I see your ass. You're a fake. To the God of Control.
Yeah. Yeah, he basically goes to meet Igor, and he like frame one cuts Igor in half and says, "I am the seeker of truth. Your lies cannot fool me."
Yeah, and like that's an example. Like I said, most of the time they pair him with Naruto in the story because typically Naruto is like the favorite ship of most of the fan base.
Yes.
And it also helps that she is technically a detective and police officer. So
both of the main themes of Persona 4.
yes. I want to say another one that I read that never got finished. No. It's still going on, I believe. Was the one where I told you, where Joker gets sent back into the past because he basically fails. But everything is so different.
So he succeeds. It's just he
won.
Succeeds too well.
It's like I won, but at what cost?
Yeah, but like I said, he succeeds. Like he wins, and it is at a grave cost. But he also wins really hard.
Yeah.
And what I mean by that is he basically denied fate like so hard that it fractured reality, and all the characters that were dead basically came back to life.
Yeah. There were... I don't know. Actually, I'm not sure. I'm trying to see if we're thinking of the same one here. Because is it the one where he, like I said, gets set back, but all the, like Ryuji's a girl, Akechi's a girl.
Yes.
Like, yeah.
Yes.
Okay, we're thinking of the
because
same
in
one.
that because in that same story, and the reason I said he wins too hard is because in that story, Persona 3 and Persona 4 characters all met an untimely end, and it was all due to the final boss or not the final boss, but the final boss of Persona 5, not
the
Roy.
God of Control.
Which,
personally to me, I'm gonna call shenanigans, but it's not my story. Yeah.
No.
Yeah, it's not my story. I'm gonna call shenanigans, but whatever.
Yes, because I also believe that Izanagi no Okami will not just fucking die to Yamaha.
Yeah, yelled about it. I'm like,
They're yelled about.
Yeah, and like I said, I don't know. I haven't read it in a while because the person who writes the story, God bless their heart, they just take forever to fucking upload because they're like 100,000 word chapters.
Yes, which, in my opinion, I love those kinds of stories more, like stories that can keep you hooked, but they also, like, seem to go on for so long that you have something to look forward to.
Yeah, it's like, oh yay, oh Christ. And
No,
like,
no. It's for me. It's like, oh yeah, fuck yeah, bitchin'. I can read this, and then I finish. It's like, fuck, I finished it too fast.
it's like now I have to wait for it to come, come more, and
Yeah.
it takes like 5 or 6 months for
Yeah,
like as an
yeah.
example.
It's not even a joke. That's just how it is.
Yeah, I know. Like, unfortunately, that's like a part of it. But
Yeah.
my favorite parts of fan fiction are the crossovers, and like not even within
Oh
the
yeah.
same
One.
universe, because not in the same universe, because like you can just get some cool and funny, interesting interactions that you would never really have thought of. I'm like, huh, okay, yeah, no, I can kind of see this work. It's a little weird, but I can see this work. Like, do you want Kratos teaching the blue lions in three houses? Go ahead.
Yeah.
Or
Bro, show me that one.
yeah,
I hope that's not
it's
just an
actually
example.
good. It's like actually good. Or for example, you know how Future Gohan died in the future timeline, or the original?
Yep.
Well, imagine if he
Mm-hmm.
gets sent to Ruby, and he ends up teaching some of
Oh,
the characters there how to use Ki.
I think that's the one I asked you for, but you never gave it to me because one, it was so long ago, and two, you're busy working still.
Yeah, I believe I still have it. I believe you just had to put up like Mirai Gohan. Or for
Yeah,
like
go
an
ahead. Okay.
example, another one that I know I remember because it's been a while since this person's uploaded, but they recently put out a new chapter. Dante and Virgil at the end of Devil May Cry 5 are put into Rosario Vampire as teachers. And you get funny situations with Virgil just kind of overreacting because he's sick of everyone's shit. And Dante
It's
immediately...
Virgil.
It's Virgil, and Dante just immediately capping one of the early antagonists.
Yeah,
Like,
that sounds
nope.
like Dante.
He's like, nope, not dealing with this shit. And like, that's just an
Yeah.
example. Like, and those are like some are like good crossovers. Jesse, what's one that you? I think I know one we both enjoyed, but the person just takes forever to upload because, well, it's Yu-Gi-Oh related. So we
Are
always
you
go
talking?
back to Yu-Gi-Oh. We always go back to Yu-Gi-Oh.
It starts with Yu-Gi-Oh, man.
Yeah. But
So
keep
the
going.
one I saw the most was Yu-Gi-Oh 5Ds and Arc 5.
Yep.
There is a multitude of these stories, and I found two of them that were just amazing to me. One where Yusei is actually like from Yusei from 5Ds
At the
skips
end of
Zexal
5Ds.
and goes to Arc 5. Yeah, at the end of 5Ds, sorry. But at the end of 5Ds, he just skips Zexal and goes to Arc 5, and he just starts teaching Yuma how to be better.
He's like, I'm gonna teach you how to get good and get good fast.
Yeah, and Yuma does actually get good. He is actually a fucking beast.
Yeah, he.
And then there's another one that, like, I think this one just, like, stopped.
Yeah.
Where, like, I don't know how to, I know how to explain it, but I don't know what caught me to this at first. Because what ended up happening was, apparently, and this goes back to what I said about Zark, he, like, destroys, the dimensions and whatnot. So what happened is that since Zark destroyed dimensions, and 5Ds was one of the most popular ones, and it's also the, like, hey, 5D, or, no, Zexal is a part of 5Ds, whatnot. But because this happened, fragments of the 5D's character souls fuse with the main characters or characters of Arc 5.
Ooh.
So you basically have a Yusei Yuya hybrid that uses not only pendulum monsters, but also junk monsters, and has a more pendulum synchro-oriented deck.
Huh. I haven't read this one.
Yeah, I'll try to see if I could find it, but that's one of the ones that I found. And, because it is a literal fusion, the hairstyle is basically a cross between Yuya and Yusei, and so is their clothes as well.
Okay.
Apparently, this also means that Yuya also takes no shit, and the lolly girl that's able to tell futures, I think, gets docked right in the face, like almost damn near instantly.
Yeah. I remember her. She was the one who played like a ritual flip deck, right?
She played a very annoying ritual flip deck, yes.
Yeah, and like those are just like some examples. There was one I remember long ass time ago that I was super invested in, but the person never finished it. I don't know if they got bored. I don't know if they stopped writing. I don't know if they died. I don't know, whatever. But essentially, it's a very similar premise to where Jack gets sent back to into the original Duel Monsters era, and he ends up competing in Battle City, and like, but the Crimson Devil, since it's familiar, like the one that was never aired in the dub, sends it to go basically fuck with Jack. It's like, nope, nope, we're not gonna have this. But apparently they just stopped it. I don't know why, and that's what sucks about
It's
Square.
probably because they couldn't think of a way to have Jack be in the old school, Duel Monsters world and not fuck up with the whole timeline. Because, yes, Fusion Monsters came before Synchro, but GX was a more fusion-oriented series.
Yeah.
They focused more on Fusion Monsters than anything else. And the same went for 5Ds. They only showed like Fusion Monsters like once or twice, like, hey, these summoning methods still exist. We're just centering around the new summoning method.
Right. And it also makes it harder for Jack to lose because in that type
Synchro monsters are broken, especially if you want to compare them to the Goat series.
Yeah, and like I'm not even saying this from like because this was written at a time where it was still like Jack didn't get like his like synchro deck and all that. His still most powerful monster was like Scar Red Dragon. So that was still the point. Like he didn't even have like the hot ones from like the manga or anything like that. The only way you could get Jack to convincingly come close to losing is that if he breaks every single duel.
Which is damn near impossible.
It's not impossible, it's just that...
I said damn near, I didn't say it was.
Fair enough. It's just that it also becomes very, annoying. It's like, oh, once again, Jack has drawn a bad hand.
Yes, because there's only ever been actually one main character that has bricked.
I know they made a joke of it in Rants, but I don't remember. Wasn't it Joey?
No, I said main character, as in the main protagonist, and that protagonist is Yuya Sakaki.
Oh, I don't remember. It must have been later.
It was actually very recent in the very beginning of the series, because he was actually dueling. I forgot who he was dueling, but he ends up drawing his 5 cards, and he basically got all Pendulum Monsters. And you would think, oh yeah, Pendulum Monsters are nice, cheap way to summon. The only downside is that the scales that he had access to were like 3, 4, and 5.
And all of his monsters were pretty high level, right?
All of his monsters level 5 or 7.
Yeah, I think I remember seeing that. Because it's like what? I think he was like doing what? Was it the quiz show that he was facing off against someone? When he was trying to like become like a registered duelist to participate in the tournament?
I think so.
He's like, oh dang, I got a crappy hand. Whatever shall I do? So
yeah, he's like, wait, there's nothing I could do with this hand. I'm just gonna end my turn.
Yeah.
Because there's nothing he can do.
True. But and like going back to like some of the more interesting ideas for like crossovers, again, like you get a lot of interesting ones. Like I'm gonna throw another one. Spider-Man and My Hero Academia. That seems like, oh yes, chef's kiss, perfect. Or you get some ones that are really far out there. I'm like, I don't know if I could do that. Or if I could have written that as well. And it's like, Goku and Makima are together as a couple. I'm like, I
can already imagine how the marriage proposal happened. It's just Goku appearing in front of Makima. Hey, I heard you're pretty strong.
No. They meet. The premise of the story is that they meet when they're kids, when Makima is still in the stages of basically little bitch energy,
a literal fucking demon.
Little gremlin bitch energy, but is still willing to kind of listen to people, and that ends up with Goku basically being like the dumbass that he is, but also the Chad that he is. Just being really nice to Makima, and Makima doesn't understand why she considers them friends. And then it goes on to like, oh yeah, they're married. It's like, how does that... And Makima is distinctly nicer but still kind of has of like fuck with me and find out kind of energy.
Hey, just because I won't nuke you in the first 5 seconds of meeting you doesn't mean you can fuck around and find out.
Essentially, yeah. And the person also writes the stories like, oh, you have Goten, and when Makima dies in the manga and when she's reincarnated as, like, Nayuta, I believe?
Nayuta?
Yeah, and, like, that's
I
their
don't think I've
third
heard
kid.
of her.
Like, you might need to look
Oh. Gotcha.
But, like, those are just, like, some examples of, like, really interesting crossovers that you just don't see as often. It's like, oh, hey, I wouldn't even think of doing something. But I want to get into something that probably will piss us both off when it comes to certain stories. Because, one, I just like to write certain stories. So I have to think. I have to, like, write it away, like, alright, how does this make sense without it pissing people off? And Jesse likes to read a lot of fan fiction too, so
it is a very constant thing that I always bring up.
But what I want to talk about are SIs and OCs. Do you know what I'm talking about?
So OCs, I know what you're talking about for OCs. SIs, sadly, I don't.
Okay, so let's start with OCs. OCs are very simple. It's just original characters. And for, like, the story. So, say, for example, oh, we're in Hellsing for, like, Hellsing Ultimate. And I put in, like, a random police chief named Chief Adams or something. Like, the guy never gets a name or anything. His just name is Chief Adams. He doesn't really get a very good description. Bam, that's an original character. However...
Yep. Or sometimes you'll have the main character, the OC be the main character, and they're like, hey, this dude's just broken as fuck, alright? I'm not going to sugarcoat it. He's just broken.
That's what I want to talk about. That's our next one. SIs or self-inserts?
Okay.
So, self-inserts are in the same vein as original characters, but it's more or less just you as a character within the story. What would you do? However, the problem I have with self-inserts 9 times out of 10, as Jesse so eloquently put it, is that I ain't gonna sugarcoat it, they're broken as fuck.
Yes, basically.
So it's like, I'll use it like Xenoverse 2, because Jesse brought this up the other day when they, like, dropped the new DLC and all that. Xenoverse 2. Every character your cat create a character, whatever, is an OC, you can make it a self-insert, whatever. But putting them, say, in Bleach or Naruto is not really fair in terms of, like, a story. If we're going to use crossover as the most prevalent thing we've been talking about.
Yeah.
Like, when I write something like that, I try to make it, like, organic, like, alright, how does my character get weaker over time? Oh, they're constantly giving energy to their allies. And because they don't know how to do it as well, because they always work alone, they constantly give too much, and therefore they're weaker. Bam, that's a plausible reason.
Or they could just outright change the type of energy. Because in animes like Dragon Ball, Bleach, and even Naruto, they all have their own essential type of ki. And I guess you could throw in Fairy Tail, yeah. But like they all have their own type of ki.
Like their own magic system, or the power system, whatever you want to call it.
Yes. So for Dragon Ball Z, as we all know, ki, the energy within one's body. In Bleach, it is what's called spiritual pressure.
I believe it's Reishi, isn't it?
So it's Reishi and spiritual pressure. In the very beginning of it, they call it spiritual pressure. They only ever translate it to Reishi when Quincy start getting involved.
Oh, okay.
But there's also another thing. So these two are actually different. So spiritual pressure is literally the soul power that one person has. Reishi is actually the soul power all around you.
Yeah. Oh, okay.
So yeah, and then there's chakra. Chakra, well, it's literally a ki. It's just used for ninja stuff. It's all chakra is. It has the same premise. Yeah, it has the same premise as Ki. It's just no one is using it to fly unless they're a wind user or a light. Like they're
Or
specialists in
Yoki.
wind jutsu or light jutsu or broken.
Yeah, like Anoki, Obito, Madara. I think Naruto got it eventually.
Naruto did get it eventually, and so did Sasuke because he was able to fly with the Susanoo.
Oh yes.
And then Kakashi.
Oh yeah. And then Fairy Tail, I believe, has its magic system, which is, I believe, literally just magic.
Yes, they actually just classify it as magic power or magical power.
Yeah, and that
which is very simple, so you don't have to think too much on it.
If you want to think about it, it's like Ki. Again, very simple. I know we're dumbing it down, but it's very similar to Ki. But they generally form it more around, depending on the character, they form them around their bodies. They use it to summon things. They use it to transform their bodies physically. So,
yeah, a good example of this would to be bringing in Hunter x Hunter. In Hunter x Hunter, they bring out, see, these people have an aura, which is their ki, which is what they actually do call it. But there's different types of ki. And these different types of ki will allow you to specialize in certain things. Nen is literally focusing this energy into certain parts of your body.
right.
And then you have Manipulator. Manipulator allows you to, manipulate. It lets you control puppets and whatnot. Then you have Enhancer. Enhancer allows you to enhance your body.
All right.
And then like there's a few other ones. I can't really remember them. But Hunter x Hunter is a good example. So the power system or the type of power they have, ki, spiritual pressure, chakra, magical power, they're all essentially the same thing, but but different types of the same thing.
Okay.
Ki is just the natural power throughout one's person. Spiritual pressure is literally the power of one's soul. Chakra is just the ability to absorb from the outside world these spirits of the actual like nature and environment itself and have them, stay inside of you. And magical power is just your MP in any typical fantasy or RPG.
Yeah, that's basically how it is. And always trying to that's why you'll always have to put characters, if they're exceedingly powerful, going back to self-insert OCs, you have to almost put them in a story where it makes the most sense and it's not too broken. Like a self-insert in say Fire Emblem Heroes, where your character is the summoner, your character never does any fighting. They just are a tactician. So if you want to make them incredibly smart, you also have other tacticians in the game where it makes okay, here, I want to hear your opinion, Rob. I want to hear your opinion, Soren. What do you think we should do? Those are just examples of where it's broken, so to speak, but it's not absolutely broken. Your character's not going to fight fucking Loki or Thor.
From the MCU, not Fire Emblem, Fire Emblem version.
No, there's
from
Loki
the MCU.
and Thor and Fire Emblem. There's Loki and Thor and Fire Emblem.
No, I said Fire Emblem versions.
There's
I said not their Fire Emblem. I said not their Fire Emblem versions. Their MCU version.
True, but it still kind of focuses in the same vein. Your character cannot canonically beat Grima, but
no,
you still hold power over Grima by virtue of the contract.
And because apparently Grima is just a female Robin, so there's also the alternative way that I won't get into, but you all know what I'm talking
about. Which there is actually a story about that, but we'll go over that a bit.
Oh, I bet.
But those are just here's an example of a self-insert where the power system would be too strong. Basically, think of almost any isekai anime where there's this character can actually beat Goku because they can do this, and this. That's an example of a self-insert that does too much. And and
a prime example of this is apparently light novel Rimuru Tempest from that time I was reincarnated as a slime.
Ooh, do tell.
So to be honest, I don't really know much of it, but apparently in the light novel, based off this one person that actually is really knowledgeable in it, based off the light novel, Rimuru Tempest in the light novel is actually stronger than Goku because he's able to consume his powers and his traits.
Yeah, that's dumb, but I want to assume that it would have to be through physical contact and not like, oh, I could just beep, I see it now, I can do it.
Nope, because Rimuru actually has a skill called Beelzebub, and Beelzebub can actually target specific things within one person's body. So it can actually target the soul, the actual person themselves. You can even target their actual magic power, or it could just target a disease inside of them, and Rimuru could just consume it, analyze it, and recreate it within his own body.
Okay, that's an example of something that's really broken and really dumb. Even if
Yes.
it's for like a character
Again,
that's like an isekai.
Yes. Again, this is Rimuru Tempest from the light novel. He's able to do some of it in the anime and the manga, but this is basically him for the light novel. He can basically do that.
Like,
again, I'm not that knowledgeable on it, but someone else is, and they basically brought it up as like, yeah, Rimuru could just do this shit, and it's crazy.
Like, I have another example for like a light novel, but it's an actual character who wasn't that OP in the, well, they were, but kind of sort of got nerfed from the light novel, is Itachi. Because Itachi had this, there was this girl that liked Itachi, and instead of actually killing her, he made her live her life in 1/110th, 1/1000th of like a picosecond, which is like the shortest form of how we can analyze like time. So he literally made her live out her entire life. She's married to Itachi. They had kids. They grew to old age. They passed away in each other's arms and all that. And then bam, he did that in literally the fastest amount of time we can, faster than the fastest amount of time that we can actually perceive.
Yeah. Itachi's just stupid broken.
Yeah, like they'll make it like incredibly broken, which is why I always like when I read stories about like Itachi as a character, they distinctly kind of keep him relatively nerfed. Even within universes where he realistically should be really overpowered. For example, I remember reading one super long time ago, like when I was like in 7th or 8th grade, where Itachi was put into Helsing after he died.
Oh no.
But no, Itachi is still relatively nerfed in that because he still has like his sickness and all that, so he can't spam everything.
Yeah.
But it also nerfs him to an incredible degree because like he struggles with some of the characters physically when he really shouldn't.
Yeah.
But again, that was like years ago. I would have to like go back and reread the story because it's already done. It's complete. Like they finished the whole story.
Oh. Well, good for you.
But that's like example of like OCs, SIs. Like that's just something that we generally dislike, but you could make it work. I won't deny. Like you can make the story work.
Yeah. There's always a way to make it work. You just got to know how to make it work.
Yeah, like your character could be overpowered, but put him in an overpowered show or an overpowered series. You want your character from Xenoverse in a relatively challenged world? Put him in Wrecker of Ragnarok. 9 times out of 10, I feel like it would be okay.
Bro, I haven't really looked, but I wanted to go look for a Records of Ragnarok fanfiction where it's just Kratos soloing the gods.
I feel like he can. I remember we had a debate about this, but that's mostly because of me playing for S&T about that. But another one would be, I know there's a YouTube version of that, but with Goku and Vegeta and Gohan.
Yep.
But like I said, there's always a way to make, like, put him in like Justice League, or like, okay, yeah, they're not the strongest in the verse, but they're so strong that it still makes sense. Put him in Marvel. You want to kind of put him in the same tiers of power, where it's not ridiculous.
Yeah, like you want to give the people in that verse a fighting chance.
Yeah, again, I had a story where I made my character, like, they start off super strong, but because they're constantly healing one of their allies, and since they usually work alone, I just make it like, okay, they're giving so much energy that it basically doesn't work. It doesn't heal him as fast, and he's giving up so much energy that's making him weaker.
Right.
So like that would be an example of
In other words, the best way to deal with combat strategy, and not just like, oh, hit him really hard. No, actual strategy.
Yeah, like let's hit him really, really hard.
Yeah, it's like, hey, this guy is actually healing every time we punch him. So what if we just hurt him more, have him exhaust his energy, or just do cheap shots? Because being prideful, all that does is let you get hit head on by a final flash by, Vegeta, and now you're just on the ground in pain.
Like the way I would see, like, I haven't gotten to it, but like Baragon, like the number 2 Espada, the one who has like, oh, if I breathe on you, your body ages. Like, that's just a hacks that you ain't beaten.
Yeah.
Like, the only way to beat hacks is like outsmart the hacks, or like, I wouldn't even know how energy would work on that, because energy can either be created or destroyed, only transformed over time. Would the aging affect energy blast? I want to find out. No. Maybe, because of the rules of anime.
Well, okay. Yes, so let's just say, in the world of anime, sometimes logic is not really logic.
Yeah. It's like, oh, I said, would Orihime's like ability to reject things reject a ki blast? Most likely.
Very much, yes.
Or would Baragon's, again, ability to age things out of non-existence affect the ki blast? Because again, energy, it's not being created or destroyed. I'm still supplying it. Would it go through it? Would it be transformed into the point where its potential energy output is so weak that it won't do damage to him? I don't know. Let's find out.
Or does it affect energy in a way where it's more of dispersed than it is disappearing?
Right. And like, that's an example of, let's make it more strategy based than like BS not working. And like, that's an example again of making it self-insert or original character work within a story where they're overpowered. Just make it where like the skill is much higher, or the hacks are much more bullshit.
Yeah, sounds about right.
And now I want to bring it to more things that we just do not like when it comes to fan fiction. And unfortunately, this also kind of ties into like the not safe for work stuff. So more like warnings, like all the warnings right here of how we talk about this. So,
now, because I'm wearing glasses, I'm going to pick up my glasses and just say we do not discriminate.
So like, here's the thing. For example, I like Fire Emblem.
No, actually, no. That's a lie. We do have some tags for the not safe for work. That is just no.
Just like, we typically, like, you can have your kink, you can have your fetish. That does not eliminate you from being mocked or saying like, ugh. Just like, no.
God damn it! Why is this one tag so talented? It has so many talented artists.
So, like, an example is like, I like Fire Emblem. I very much like Fire Emblem. I don't make it. I have like several playthroughs of it. So, on like all copies of my game.
I am a scrub, and I only got nerd knowledge and not really video game knowledge to help me.
Yeah. So, like, some of like the most recent stories, it's just someone's like scat and fart fetish for a character. And this is on the kids section. Basically, when you first load into like the crossover stories of a character. So, yeah. Like, those are like, what? And like on the phone website version, it's like the most recent 30 stories. I want to say like a good 15 of them are dedicated to this one character. So
that's almost the vast majority of them that sympathize. That's basically a vast majority of stories that actually sympathize with the main character, aka Izuku Midoriya. Izuku Midoriya has had a rough life. So a lot of people, sympathize for him, and they're like, hey, we're gonna make you just get all the girls, and hope this makes you happy. Yeah, he's like, I hope this makes you happy. Also, by the way, you're gonna be happy regardless because we're God.
Yes, essentially.
Yeah.
So, like, there's always like interesting ways of how people put it in a story. Like I said, like going back to like the example I used earlier, Goku and Makima, two characters who 9 times out of 10 in most fiction, Goku was like, I'm sick of your shit.
Yeah.
And like in that one story, they made it work. They don't do anything really not safe for work. They might just do a little bit of an implication. It's something weird because Jesse hates Chi-Chi. I have grown to appreciate Chi-Chi more as I get older.
Well, it's the reason I hate Chi-Chi is because, well, she's the main reason why, well, people had, or why Takara Toriyama, may his soul rest in peace, had to basically make Gohan worse than everything.
In a sense, because the way of characterizing Chi-Chi is like, she's the overbearing Asian mom stereotype who wants her kid to be good in everything. And you're going to become...
Besides fighting, that has, you know, the fate of the world at the end of it. And if the world is gone, what kind of scholarship are you getting?
So I'll probably put in that the clip of Goku saying, are you saying that Gohan studies are more important than the world? And she's like, no. Chi-Chi's like, that's right. Nothing's more important than Gohan studies. And then I'm just going to cut to the world blowing up and she's in heaven.
Yeah.
Like that's
and
just
then
like,
it just cuts to like a dead Goku, and Chi-Chi's like, so you still think his studies are more important than the world?
Yes. Yeah, until Kid Buu comes to heaven to run the fade with everyone.
Yes, because Kid Buu can do that thanks to Goku.
And he did.
Yeah. Yeah. Again, thanks to Goku.
Okay, so we're gonna kind of scroll back to, again, like the tagging and stuff we kind of don't like in fanfiction.
Yeah.
So, kind of like going back to like the whole other thing, the kinks and fetishes, Fire Emblem. So, we've had discussed this before in something I haven't published, but probably will now. Jesse has a particular kink that he absolutely detests with all his heart.
It's gotten worse to the point where every time I see something related to that, it makes me sick. It actually makes me sick inside.
Yeah, and NTR or cuckold.
Or Neratare. Yeah, it's NTR or Ner. Yeah, NTR is the actual term for it. NTR is the shorter version, and it's literally cuckolding. But it's not just cuckolding; it's cuckolding to the point where you're literally breaking up a actual already made relationship. To
the point where it's like so wholesome, so family friendly, and they just like, I'm gonna make you feel words today.
It's like, wow, it's like, wow, such a wholesome relationship. It's so nice. The sky is sunny, and then the guy is, I'm about to end this guy's whole career.
Ugly bastard walks into the frame.
Yeah. Surprisingly enough, it's a majority of them is, well, ugly bastard, but another majority of them is just a dude that's just more jacked, and apparently the only reason he actually takes the girl away is because, well, he's just really skilled, and you know what I mean when I say skilled.
He's very good at what he does. I'm the best there is at what I do. And what I do is very good.
He's good, yeah.
But yeah, like that's like an example. Jesse doesn't like it. I can tolerate it to an extent. Like I am in the same boat, but there's only ever been one NTR that I was able to tolerate, and that was the only one I was able to tolerate. Anything else makes me sick. Yeah, and it's like, if it's something that's incredibly wholesome, I just like don't typically like you can see this because like there's multiple fan fiction sites and all that. Archive of Our Own. There's one called like Adult Fan Fiction, which is essentially exactly what
I wonder what's in that one. I wonder what's on that site.
And there's another one called Hentai Foundry, which does both. They have it's like Rule 34 and fanfiction.net combined into, or Archive of Our Own more really, combined into one where you could do both. Like, I swear to Christ, people have like a boner of steel for cucking people like Ichigo, where it's like, Jesus Christ, what is wrong with you? Like, you
Yeah,
really hate
like
this
to
character
me,
that much?
if I was in Ichigo's shoes, like I wouldn't care if I was hated by everyone. That dude is just gone. He will be deleted.
So like, they do it for characters like Ichigo, they do it for characters like Midoriya, or Midoriya's doing the cucking.
Yeah.
They do it for characters like Naruto. Surprisingly enough, characters like Goku don't get brought up a whole lot in terms of
Well, yeah,
stuff.
because Goku is literally brought up as a character that didn't know what marriage was and thought it was a food, so he doesn't exactly care that much about his marriage.
So if I was to put on a scale of like characters where they do this a lot, for like Dragon Ball, Goku's like 2 out of 10, Master Roshi's like 7 out of 10, and Krillin's like 3 out of 10.
Don't forget Oolong.
Oolong is incredibly rare. I would say it's like 1 for every like 2,000.
Which is honestly kind of surprising because Oolong just has the ability to turn to whoever the fuck he wants.
The only problem is like he says it can only last for like 5. What does he say? Like 3 minutes or 5 minutes?
Around that time.
It's around that time, and I believe if it's something that uses extra energy, it takes more out of him. So
yes, but in the world of anime and in every other video game, just break your limits, bro.
Go beyond plus ultra.
This is me going further beyond.
So, like, just a nut bud. So, like, again, like an example of this is, it's like we particularly don't like it. Like another one not the biggest fan of is like the blackmail one. I could look past it 9 times out of 10, but still.
That's a hard no for me because the blackmail one, like, again, throughout our friend group, some of us are actually generally really smart. When it comes to the smartest one in our group, it is a tie between me, Humberto, and Kashmir.
Yeah. Like when it comes
and
to
this is just general. This is like just general knowledge, not academic. If it was academic, screw you, Kashmir. You got first place. I can't do anything about that. But in terms of like general knowledge, me, Humberto, and Kashmir were all essentially tied.
Yeah, and it might just be a personal thing where it's like abusing your power in a way like that to me is more degenerate than like almost anything.
Wow, oh my god, you are so good at blackmailing that you literally did it to take this one dude's girlfriend away because she just pissed you off one time. That is incredibly crazy, man.
And
good for you.
9 times out of 10, that seems more like NTR than it is.
It is.
Yeah.
And the only reason I bring it up because it reminds me of literally the everyday life of Spider-Man from the MCU.
Oh god. Where it's like,
because like this is just like a comic panel. I don't know what volume this is, but it's literally like the Venom like goes into a bar and he's all bragging about how he ruined Spider-Man's life, and then Wolverine is there. It's like, cool, good for you. You ruined the life of a fucking 12-year-old.
Yeah, like,
I stabbed the Hulk. Yeah, it's like I stabbed the Hulk.
What'd you do today? Piss off Spider-Man? Is he like 12 years old?
Yeah.
Yeah,
and that's like what I'm constantly thinking of. It's like, oh yeah, dude, like you blackmail this person to do something. That is good job. Hats off to you. You've earned it. Congratulations. Congratulations. If it sounds like I'm not impressed, then good, because I'm not.
Like, even when it's like stories that like someone may commission me to do, where it's like, oh hey, I want it to be where it's like Anon and fucking, I don't know, Yor, Hinata, or whatever. And it's like, where it's like, I can make it work, but I'm just gonna make it to where like that character also doesn't exist in that universe. So it's like, oh.
Which character? Exactly.
Exactly. Where it's like, oh, does Goku exist? Not anymore. Oh, does for example, Krillin exist in the story? Oh, he didn't marry 18. He married Marin or something. And
Bro,
like,
downgrade. But hey, at least that's one competition out of the way.
yeah, no, because Marin's a dumbass. I
Well,
I
I know that's why that's one competition out the way, because that means more people can go after 18.
yeah, like bimbos are not
And the best part, she is older than 18.
like bimbos aren't something I particularly enjoy when it comes to like storytelling and even like the not safe for work stuff.
Yeah, it may be cool in terms. It may be nice, not cool. It may be nice to see it like in a comic format, because in a comic format it is literally just really fast paced.
Yeah.
In terms of reading it in a format of a light novel, yeah, not so much. It will get boring very, very fast.
So yeah, like what, the NTR, the blackmail. The one character that's just like paired up with everyone. Like for example, we did Midoriya. We said about Midoriya earlier, where like Midoriya is like just getting with everyone.
Yeah.
Another character they do this with often is Naruto.
And Ichigo. I mean, not Ichigo's not often, but Ichigo does get one every once in a while.
I will say Ichigo in fanfiction, people give a lot more than, but not as often as like again Midoriya, Naruto, and all.
Oh yeah, like it's definitely not as often, but Ichigo does get a dub every once in a while.
Yeah, like even in anime, he like gets a dub and all that.
I mean, he already got a dub in the anime, which is why I find it absolutely crazy that people are like, "Yeah, let's just cuckold Ichigo and take away Orihime." Like, bruh, Ichigo like, is he's not a planet buster, but he is still equivalent to a fucking god killer.
I mean, at least like he has two other options in most of the time. He has two other options, being Nell and Rukia, but
Okay, Nell is questionable.
Not really, because in the manga later on, she does become a permanent adult again.
Not necessarily.
Alright, yeah.
Like, yeah, she becomes a permanent adult in the manga, but it's not exactly, because she ends up having to have this bracelet to control her reishi to keep her adult form.
Right.
Once that bracelet either comes off or is destroyed, she reverts back to her original state.
Yeah. Okay, you know what? Yeah, I forgot about that. Shit.
Don't worry, bro. I got you covered.
And the other character typically is Jean from Ruby, basically like the blonde hair guy from Ruby.
Yeah.
So like he's the other character, like, oh, let's just pair everyone with him. So like that's an example of it happening like in fanfiction, like, oh, let's pair it. It's something it's less of a problem than like the NTR and blackmail, but it's just something I find annoying more than anything else.
Yeah, I won't lie, it does kind of get annoying, because there's times where I want to look for like specific ships. Like I want to just find a good My Hero Academia that is just Mina, Shido, and Izuku Midoriya.
Fair enough.
But I can't, because every time I find that one ship that catches me in the summary, it's also Izuku banging 5 other girls.
It's like I don't mind, but I'm looking for something specific here.
Like, I don't mind. I'll get back to you later, but I'm trying to find something that I'm looking for.
Yeah, like that's just like a very clear-cut example. Like, and again, like. An example, like all your like other finishes, like feet, armpits, whatever. You can have them.
Look, man, you do you.
Yeah, you can have them. You do you. The other ones that basically we flat out say we hate are like the NTR and blackmail. I don't like the gore and guro side of it either.
Why?
Why would you do that?
Also, by the way, gore and horror, or guro, however you want to call it, that amputee falls into that category as well, because amputees just happens to be connected to guro.
Yeah, it's like
90% of the time.
Yeah, like And if we're talking like a character who doesn't have a limb, we don't really have a problem with that. It's more like, oh hey, here's Kukaku Shiba, the character from Bleach, who's very physically attractive despite the fact she only has one arm.
Yes.
Or
The only
Yang.
time, okay, they've already lost their limb. That we're okay with that. It's when you basically have Yoraichi, the tan black cat in Bleach. It's when you basically have her show off pictures of her, and then all of a sudden you cut off her arms and legs just to make sure she won't run away, and then you use her as a toy.
Yeah,
No.
that's... Oh my god, I threw up a little bit in my mouth just... God damn, I'm pretty sure that picture actually exists on Rule 34.
It does, because I found it on Rule 34, and I hate it.
Guro is, like, and Gore, they're basically self-explanatory. They're the same thing, really. Horror is, like, definitely one of those weird categories where it's like...
horror is, like, hit or miss, to be honest. It is literally hit or miss.
Horror could be like, why am I getting a boner because of this? Or, like, Jesus Christ, what the fuck is that? So, like,
or in other terms, it is literally a male's fight or flight response because they feel they're gonna die. The entity happens to be female, and they want to have a bit of fun before they murder the dude because in their final moments they need to reproduce.
Yeah. So, like, an example of this would be like the xenomorph a lot. They're like, why the?
I am actually grateful that I have not found that one.
Be grateful. Be very grateful because like confused boner noises. That's a lot of it from xenomorphs. Well, it's just like they just do the same thing a lot of the times. It's like, oh, give it tits, give it an ass, and there you go. Give it.
And then there's the face hugger.
Like the face hugger is another. Face hugger literally has its own tag in R34. So
yeah.
It's its own subgenre of degeneracy, and sometimes they do stories about that.
Again, we don't discriminate. You guys do you.
But we will judge.
Yeah, we may not discriminate, but we will judge the absolute fuck out of you.
Yeah. So, like, that's exactly... And the other side of the horror one is, like, cosmic horror of, like, what the hell is this? But it exists, so fair enough.
Yeah.
So...
It's more of, why are you here? How did you get here?
And why is this happening to me, specifically?
Why is this making me feel some type of way? I don't want to feel this type of way.
Where, yeah, like we said, one side is like, I'm scared for my life, but this kind of turns me on, and the other side is like, I do not want to be turned on because of this.
Yeah, it's one is basically the funny word scaroused.
Scare-roused, yeah.
Yeah.
And the other one is, please, dear God in heaven, do not let this happen.
And only to find out that it was Dio.
And Dio said, F you in particular today. You're a JoJo in my book.
Sorry, everyone. I'm also a JoJo fan. I just had to... when the moment you said, I prayed to God, don't let this happen, I had to say Dio. He had to make a cameo at least once.
Yeah. And I really think that covers most of the things at least in, like, what we particularly don't like when it comes to, like, fanfiction and stories. Like, we covered the not safe for work. We covered, like, just, like, the general things that we don't like to see. Oh, wait, there's one more thing I want to cover.
Mm-hmm.
And, like, just shitty writing, all things considered.
Oh, yes. Shitty writing is a big what the fuck. So, you can have the best summary in the world and the paragraphs of a fucking 3-year-old, and it can immediately lose that magic.
Yes, absolutely. So something that has like very poor writing. It could be like bad grammar or bad matchup in terms of like how you want to write the story. I kid you not. There is a story that again has a very good premise. Dante and Virgil end up leaving the demon realm. They're in the world of Ruby. Sounds like a good premise, right?
Yeah.
Here's the thing. So a character, like no one realistically in Ruby is anywhere close to Dante and Virgil's power level. The only person I want to say close is like gods and maybe Salem.
That sounds about right. And Kratos. I'm pretty sure Kratos can put up a fight.
At least we're talking about in those two universes specifically.
Yes.
So, and the person who wrote the story was showing that Virgil was struggling fighting Crow from Ruby. And everyone in the comments was giving this person shit for it. Because, like, no, that's not how the power works. That's not how the story works. It's very dumb. The person ended up writing a chapter saying, like, F you guys, I just wanted to write a story and you guys gave me shit for it. And people say good riddance to bad rubbish.
Yeah.
So, like,
it's okay to have a story, like, as long as you explain, hey, Virgil is holding back because he doesn't want to accidentally kill Crow.
Yeah.
And because he's fought Dante his entire life, he knows nothing but to hold back. He knows nothing but to not hold back, is what I'm trying to say.
Yeah, and that's why in the context of the story, it didn't make sense because Virgil was actually struggling. Which, again, would only make sense if he's fighting characters in, like, say, Marvel vs. Capcom, where it's like, alright, yeah, no, that makes sense. Why?
Or an invisible Chun-Li.
True. Or SNK Galactus.
Yeah. By the way, for the invisible Chun-Li joke, that's from a YouTuber. His name is Life Arrow. He does live streams, and he did a lobby shenanigans. One of which he had Chun-Li as invisible on his side of the screen. He was playing Virgil, but he could not see her.
Yeah. But, like, that's, like, an example of, like, shitty writing. Like, bad grammar is, like, another thing. If it's if English is your second language, hey, bad grammar, I'll shut my mouth. I will shut my mouth.
Yeah. If it's like you say ahead of time, like, oh yeah, this isn't my first language, so expect bad grammar. All right, cool. We're not going to give you shit for that. But if you don't say it whatsoever, and it's just like grammar error after grammar error, like, okay, bro.
It's like,
give us a heads up.
Second or third language, and I'd be like, if they say yes, I'd be like, okay, I'll shut my mouth. Have someone proofread your stories then. And then they'll just like, all right, here, I'll touch it up.
If English is your first language and you're writing like that, I'm sorry, my friend, you need to go back to school.
Or you just need to rethink your stories, because that's what I did a lot when I first actually started writing in high school. Where it's like, oh god, like, the self-inserts, the overpowered characters, the just bad grammar. Like, those were all extremely prevalent in, like, some of the first stories I wrote. And, like, that's why it's bad. But, again, like, if something's like a shit post, at least make it quite obvious it's a shit post. Where it's like, oh yeah, this is very obvious, I don't care. And
right.
This is mainly just to have fun. And I'd be like, alright, cool. If English is your second or third language, also cool. Like, there's a story on Kingdom Hearts where, like, there's this hentai world that they send Sora to, but the person who wrote it is like, hey, I don't speak English. Or like, okay, if they spoke English, it's fine. It's still just kind of weird to hear Sora cuss. Or at least read Sora cuss, rather.
My favorite part of it, my favorite headcanon is basically because Sora is going to, Disney World, they'll have that Disney magic that prevents you from cussing.
Hentai world, immediate. What the fuck is this?
Wait, I can cuss? What the fuck was that word I just said?
What is this? What is this power?
It just has Virgil, like, look in his hands. What is this power?
Except it's just Sora with the keyblade. What is this power? What the fuck is this power?
Yes.
But now that we kind of covered that, let's just shift this to stories that we haven't seen written, but we want to see written.
Or stories that we basically have been discontinued and we hope it comes back to be continued.
True. So, like, I just thought of like 15 million different ones the other night when I was doing Graveyard at my job. I was like, there's a lot of stories about Roxas basically immediately leaving the organization and going to another world. Let's do that again. So, like, there's one where he leaves the organization immediately and goes to the Mass Effect universe. There's another one where he leaves immediately and goes to the Monster Musume universe.
Oh God, that's worse.
It really isn't. It's actually pretty wholesome in that story.
Oh no, Monster Musume is very wholesome. It's just,
very perverted.
hey, do you like fan service? Yes. Well, this is the show for you.
And like the other one that I know off the top, the one I thought off the top of my head that night was like, let's have Roxas leave the organization immediately, but get sent to the Persona 5 universe at the start of the game. But there's basically no Joker.
So Roxas is the Joker.
Yeah, essentially. And like my thought process is like, oh, Roxas doesn't have a persona because it comes from the Sea of the Soul. But because he's a nobody and therefore has no heart, i.e. no soul, he can't summon a persona, but he can still use the Keyblade.
Which then brings in a nice little tidy up, because for those of you that don't know Kingdom Hearts, and I'm assuming that's a vast majority of you unless you paid hyper attention to the actual game, nobodies have the ability to actually grow their own hearts and be their own person.
Right. So theoretically, the way I had the story go in my mind is like, okay, they do all the stuff, he ends up saving everyone, but like that last moment, like when Summer's about to be over from Persona 5 Strikers, have Riku show up. And he's here to take Roxas back. And
then Roxas summons Persona and still lose.
You can still have him still lose, and then you can have like Persona 5 games show up. It's like, what the hell is this? What are you doing? And then you can basically have it to where like it's like the ending choices like in Persona 5, where like they try to fight Riku and they lose, they still get the true ending. Or you can have like where they fight Riku and win, and Riku explains like, if he doesn't come with me, my own friend will not come back to life. He is part of me.
In other words, the world of Persona 5 ends up replacing Twilight Town.
Essentially. And it can still work. You could just have Twilight Town be a very, like a faraway town within Persona 5. It would still work.
Yeah.
And then, or you can have Roxas choose, like, this is something I need to do. And then just, unfortunately, leading to Kingdom Hearts 3, where it should have been an actual war instead of, like, 7 people versus 1,000,000 Heartless and 13 other guys.
Or more like Sora versus 1,000,000 Heartless and 13 other guys.
True, because the other characters don't do much. Unfortunately.
They don't. And playing that shit on maximum difficulty, playing as Aqua, is fucking annoying as hell when you are not used to a level 99 Sora.
Yeah, because like I believe Aqua and Riku are both like level 50.
Yeah, they are capped at level 50. And they do not do good.
Yeah, I know. It makes it.
You have to basically do a lot of hit and run tactics.
Yeah. So, like, that would be the example of a story where it's like, oh, hey, this is very interesting because people have done it before, but it also makes sense within, like, in terms of fanfiction, people have already done it. So it makes a whole lot of sense. Yeah. And, like, because, like, Persona also has the dating aspect, I would just say, don't have Roxas date anyone. Just have everyone see Roxas as like a little brother. Which
is ironically what everyone... Actually, that's what everyone sees Sora, as the little brother.
Yeah, everyone sees Sora a lot as a little brother, and like 9 times out of 10, even in pairings, they have him with Kyrie. Actually, let me rephrase that.
Yeah.
7 out of 10.
Yeah.
Like, 2 are... Like, one's Riku, one's probably Axel/Lee, and one's probably Roxas.
Yeah, actually,
or whatever character that happens to be the crossover for that story.
Yeah.
So, Jesse, like, what's one that you have that's like an interesting crossover fanfiction idea, or one that you hope gets continued?
Well, the one that I hope gets revived... I just stepped on my Switch controller, damn. Anyways, the one that I hope gets revived is actually a crossover between Kingdom Hearts, The World Ends With You, and Persona 5.
I think I remember you telling me about this.
Yes, it was an amazing story, and I loved it so much, where basically it was all 3 premises combined. At the end of Kingdom Hearts 3, where Sora, dies, he gets brought to the world of Persona 5, and he's in Kamoshida's palace.
Huh.
And in this world, he basically loses the ability to summon his Keyblade. And he ends up awakening to... He meets Joker and his friends, and Neku is there. He sees Neku, they have a good buddy moment, and Sora ends up awakening to a persona that is a Final Fantasy summon. I think his was Bahamut.
Because I think he actually summoned Bahamut in Kingdom Hearts 1, right? Or was it a spell?
In Kingdom Hearts 1?
I remember always seeing...
So Sora did not have Bahamut as a summon in Kingdom Hearts 1. I said Final Fantasy because in Final Fantasy, Bahamut was essentially a summon.
Yeah.
Sora had to fight a Bahamut, though.
Oh, he did?
Yeah, there was a shadow literally called a Bahamut.
I'm looking this up real quick.
Yeah, because all of Sora's summons are essentially his allies, not, mystical fucking creatures.
Yeah, let me see this.
If that was the case, then where is Ifrit in Kingdom Hearts?
Yeah.
Where's Garuda?
Yeah, I'm just looking at it right now. I just don't remember it. Granted, I haven't played despite the fact that I say I'm a Kingdom Hearts fan, I've only played the back end of the catalog, and I haven't played 1 or 2. I played all the spin-offs and 3, but not 1 and 2. So basically that. Anyways, and that's how the story goes? Where did it stop at?
So it ended up stopping. So it's been a while, so let me see if I can remember. I think it ended up stopping a little bit after Kanashiro's, the bank dude.
Yeah, Kanashiro, the Yakuza boss.
Yeah, Kanashiro. I think it stopped a bit after Kanashiro. I think it was a little bit before. I can't remember. But the one thing that I liked about this was, how, in the thing in Persona, the main character has to build these bonds, and these bonds form confidants.
Yeah.
Well, the thing is that in this story, Neku, Joker, and Sora were essentially the fools of the journey. And them hanging out together, being brothers and whatnot, was them boosting up the fool's confidant. Then you have Riku. Then you have Riku, Ryuji, and Beat, and them hanging out boosts the Chariot Arcana.
I can already see this being very difficult to kind of continue.
Yeah, that's why I said I hope it gets revived, because it got discontinued. That's why I hoped it gets revived, but hopefully a bit easier on the person, because this is the main reason why he stopped. Because one thing about it was all the characters in The World Ends With You and Kingdom Hearts awaken to their own persona.
Oh, God.
So he basically had to create almost 14 different personas.
Yeah, and no.
Because
I'm good with that.
Yeah, he had to create 14 different personas. Because in The World That Ends With You, gang, it was just Neku, Shiki, Beat, and Rhyme. Just those 4, which is, it's not bad.
Yeah, not too bad.
In Kingdom Hearts, you got Sora, Riku, Roxas, Kairi, Naminé, and I think they even have Ventus in it. And I'm like, bruh.
Too much.
You do not need all of these people.
Yeah, it's just oh god, this is way too much.
Yes. Also, the one thing I liked about it was that Kairi ends up being the rule breaker, and she pisses off Aqua a lot.
Yeah. To be fair, though, that doesn't make a lot of sense if you think about it in canon. But then again, this is fanfiction, so what does canon mean anyway?
Well, the thing is that you also have to remember these are the events after Sora disappeared.
Right.
And at this point, Kairi has heard absolutely nothing from Riku. Because as soon as Riku went to the Persona world, he lost all contact with everyone in the Kingdom Hearts world.
That sounds about right.
Yes.
At least fanfiction-wise.
Yes, in terms of fanfiction-wise, it sounds about right. That's why Kairi ends up being the rule breaker, because this is Kairi after she finishes Melody of Memories. So she knows what happened to Sora, and she's really upset that Riku just kind of left without her.
therefore decides to break the rules the same way Sora does.
Basically, yes. Surprise, surprise, that one of the relationships is Sora and Kairi. Who would have thought?
Hey, fair enough. I'm fine with that. There's another one that I kind of want to see happen because I find it an interesting concept because they don't really do it in this other show. So have you heard of the show Has Been Hotel?
Yes.
Okay, and I'm assuming you're familiar with the concept, right?
Of Has Been Hotel?
Yeah.
Yes. I want to say yes, but let's just say for the sake of things that I don't, because I technically don't. I don't really watch Has Been Hotel, so I'm not sure if there's more concepts to it that I haven't seen or whatnot.
Well, the whole concept is like, all right, the daughter of Lucifer wants to redeem sinners, so basically they don't essentially have the purge every year.
Right.
For, like, sinner demons. So I'm like, okay, here. So, you remember Tekken?
Oh, no.
So...
I think I know where this is going.
So in Tekken 6, after Jin gets control of the Mishima Zaibatsu from Tekken 5, he essentially starts World War III to find the source of the Devil Gene, to kill it so he can end the whole Devil Gene bloodline, right? Or like, just get rid of it. So, my thought process is like, oh, have him actually die at the end of Tekken 6, where he sacrifices himself to kill Azazel, and he's sent to hell, and he has to be redeemed in order to get back. But he doesn't think he's worthy of redemption because of what he does.
Oh, no.
As a concept, it's actually very interesting. I was like, let's
get it is very interesting as a concept.
Yeah, let's get someone who was truly reprehensible at the time of his death to try and redeem himself. Essentially, Jin became Discount Hitler in Tekken 6, but he actually had a good intention.
Right.
So it's like, oh, that's actually kind of a good concept. Let's get someone who, again, who thinks they're not worthy of redemption, try to redeem themselves, and get into heaven. Because in Tekken 8, he does have an angel form, so...
He is purified, yes.
You can be quote-unquote purified, and his devil gene can be used for good. But, I will say this, do not pair him with anyone. You can have one character have a crush on them, and that's it. Don't pair Jin with anyone.
Oh, one-sided relationship, huh?
Not even one-sided relationship, because a character in Has Been Hotel named Nifty has a thing for quote-unquote bad boys, and Jin has a very much of appearance of a bad boy.
Well... if your father was Kazuya, I don't see how you can't.
Like, Jin, like, especially in the anime on Netflix, is a very, very nice person, all things considered. He's an introvert, essentially.
Yeah, so Jin is a very nice person. It's just that he is also the equivalent of fuck around and find out. And by that, I mean people thought they can bully him and push him around, and they fucked around, and Jin helped them find out what would happen.
Yeah. And like I said, it's just like an interesting concept of a story. It's like, oh, hey, let's have this character cross over. Again, it fits the themes of someone thinking that anyone can be redeemed and someone thinking they can never be redeemed for what they did.
Mm-hmm.
It's like, oh, hey, that's nice. That's cool. Let's continue that.
Right.
And then I do have like another one. I don't know if you have any more, though.
I do got another one.
Okay.
And this is one that I actually this is one that I recently found out. So just to explain a little bit, I'm a nerd on quite a few things. Power Rangers is one of them, and Digimon is another one of them. Okay. I recently found Digimon Fanfiction, and I'm beating myself up because it took me so long to find the Digimon Fanfiction. And one of the things that I actually saw in the Digimon, fanfiction universe, that something never occurred to me was the season 3 of Digimon Tamers, interacting with the original Digidestin. So Tai, Matt, Sora, Mimi, Izzy, Kairi, TK. Then you got Davis, Yoli, and Ken.
Yeah, like.
And who's the other one? Just his predecessors. Him actually hanging out with his predecessors.
Yeah. like I said, the
Yeah.
original crew, and like I can work with that as like a story. It's like, oh yeah, that's actually very interesting.
Yes,
Because
because then it actually takes a burden off of Takato and his friends, so they don't have to actually hide the existence of Digimon. They actually have people they can talk to about Digimon.
yeah, and even if it's something short, it's like, oh hey, that's something that's cool to read about.
Yeah.
I do have one more. So we've talked about this in the past, like off camera and all that. And I was like,
Uh-huh.
let's take Time Patrol and Time Force from Power Rangers, and like let's put that together. And I just like, oh, oh, like the Time Patrol and the Time Force. Again, character displaced. You can use it when they fight Goku in the crack of time. And it's just like Wait, you're part of Time Force? The hell is that? I'm part of the Time Patrol. The hell is that? What the hell is the Time Patrol?
I could already. The funny thing is that in my head, I immediately thought of Trunks just sighing to himself and saying, "Not another Captain Ginyu."
Just like thinking of the whole thing of like, oh, it's just a Captain Ginyu situation, or it's like,
Yeah.
yeah, because within Xenoverse, there's only one Time Patrol that we know of. Every universe can have their own, but in Universe 7, there's only one Time Patrol. Doesn't matter what timeline or whatever, there's only one.
Yes.
So again, being displaced, you can have it be Trunks, you can have it be the CAC, that just like they get sent to Earth and the Time Force is sent to investigate it because like, hey, there's been a time anomaly. And it's tied to what? That guy looks human. Or if you wanted to think being like Monster of the Week and all that, you can have it be the Namekians, the Majins, the Frieza race.
There's only one downside. The downside is that if the Power Rangers, unless the Power Rangers are severely buffed, they are getting mollywopped about 90% of the time.
Yeah, I would only do this if it's like the character's first mission and they're an idiot and then they messed up the controls. And so they're still incredibly weak. They're like around Goku and Piccolo's level from freaking Pirate. Like they're around Goku and Vegeta. They're around Goku Piccolo's at the start of the Saiyan Saga. And you can make them still weaker. And then it's at least somewhat fair, quote unquote.
The funny thing is that it's actually not.
I know, as I say fair in quotes. Because, like, do they still
get so again, Power Ranger nerd. Goku and Piccolo's power level at the beginning of Z was like, what, almost 1,000?
When they fully
not even
charged up their
like,
attacks.
Not almost 1,000.
When they fully charged up their attacks,
yeah, like when
it was like 1,200 or 1,500, and...
Well, no, because the thing is that Ki just works differently because they act like, oh, Ki is your life force and the way you do attacks. Piccolo's special beam cannon can be charged an indefinite amount of time, but it seems to drain absolutely nothing from him.
True.
Like, it doesn't make him weaker after he does it. It's not extinguishing his Ki, so it's like Ki is very fickle in that sense.
True.
I'm just saying, like, like Goku and Piccolo's power level after they take off their weight training clothes, and they're not joking around. Like, they're not charging their attack. It's just their battle power.
Yeah, and, like, that's the thing. It's still, as a concept, like I said, it's interesting. You could have it to where, because the Time Force is constantly attacking, like, say, the more monstrous-looking characters, that it forces them to join, what is the main bad guy's name? Rancic? I believe is his name.
Rancic, yep.
Yeah.
Rancic is
like,
yes.
Hey, you have time powers on it? Let me do something to time travel, and I'll help you stop them. And then, like, that's the main conflict of the story. It's essentially like the quote unquote evil ranger plotline that still works.
Right.
But the only problem
is,
again, the power.
I don't think Time Force had an evil ranger.
Well, they had the Quantum Ranger who was antagonistic towards them, but not evil. Yeah, you're right.
Yes and no. They didn't have an evil Power Ranger. They just had a dick Quantum Ranger.
Yeah, like I said, he was antagonistic.
Yes, and it heavily depends on which one you watch. If you're watching the dub, this guy is just heavily antagonistic to the Red Ranger of Time Force. I'm sorry, I forgot his name. It's been a while. I think
it's like West. I think.
Yeah, it's West. So like in the English, Saban's Power Rangers, the Quantum Ranger, who I think his name is Rex. Rex just had a beef with West because he viewed West as
someone who
having everything.
Right?
Yeah, he because his father was like the mayor, he viewed him as never working for anything and got whatever he wanted.
The character's name was Eric.
Sorry. Eric, sorry. Again, it's been a while, and I also am moving out of Florida, and I'm moving out of Florida this Friday, which is the 14th. And so I'm getting a bunch of like last minute stuff done. But anyways, yeah, so Eric had beef with West. And his beef was just West was basically given anything on a silver platter. For the Super Sentai, sadly, I have not watched that one, but the story could be different. Instead of him being like the Quantum Ranger being antagonistic to the Red Time Ranger, he's just an overall dick to all the Rangers.
Pretty much. And it's pretty much like, oh, he's an a-hole, which is like, all right, fine. Which to me is like, all right, that's
which makes sense because in Battle for the Grid he's voiced by Virgil.
I need more power. Yeah, it's Dan Southern. Dan Southern's words, and it's like, oh god, yeah, Southworth, and it's like, oh yes, I need more quantum power, and it's like, yeah, it fits perfect.
The only problem I have with this video game is that Virgil moves so fucking slow.
Yeah, unfortunately, just off tangent, Quantum Ranger is very slow in like Battle for the Grid. But then again, Battle for the Grid is
he looks like he hits really hard. It's just he has to wind up that fist for like 15 seconds before he throws it.
True. And I can't actually. There's one more thing I want to mention about something I don't like, but this is more towards like those versus stories on who characters fight and all that.
Mm-hmm.
There's something called a spite fight, or a spite story in this case. So we have two characters who have relatively similar themes, but one's so more grossly overpowered and favored by the writer that despite the fact that character is actually weaker than another character, they make that character win.
Makes sense.
So an example of this is actually in 1 Minute Melee. The show that's was Death Battle adjacent for a long time. But in 1 Minute Melee, they had Cell versus this character from Hunter x Hunter, whose name I absolutely forget.
Don't worry, I forgot his name too.
Let me see. I'm gonna look it up because it was 1 Minute Melee, and it was one.
And while he's looking it up, this guy was known as a Chimera ant. And in Hunter x Hunter, there's a vast majority of monsters and animals and creatures that are, different and terrifying. Chimera ants are a species of ants that literally evolve after they eat their prey.
Right.
This person was essentially known as the king of the Chimera ants because, one, he was birthed directly from the queen, but the queen ate 7 people that had the ability to use aura and nen.
Yeah, I found the
This dude... Yeah, okay.
But keep going.
Okay, so in this dude is known as an absolute fucking unit, and he ends up beating the head. Spoilers for those that are just starting Hunter x Hunter. This dude ends up beating the head, one of the strongest people that is part of the Hunter x Hunter Association. This dude versus Cell in the 1 Minute Melee fucking mollywopped Cell, and this dude is not a planet buster.
Yeah, and the character's name was Meruem, I believe is how it's pronounced.
Okay.
Meruem. Yeah. And even in granted, yes, 1 Minute Melee is no research and all that. It's just a character on similar power levels on who should win. I guess we're going to keep going on with this because there's a lot of characters in 1 Minute Melee that kind of have this situation going for them. So, again, the first one, Cell versus Meruem, where it's that doesn't make a whole lot of sense at all. And
the only thing these two really have in common is the fact that they, one, continuously evolved, and two,
They have
or like one, they
insect brains.
continuously evolve through eating, which again, Chimera ants eat their prey, and Cell, yes, it was through his asshole, but he still ate Android 17 and 18.
Yeah, and like they have like an insectoid design, or like insect
Yes.
based. But Cell is so
Yes.
drastically more powerful that even if you don't like Cell and you want to make the fight close, have Cell's like, all right, you know, I'm done fucking around now. I'm done, and then
Yeah.
just end the fight, which typically is how it's how you can get away with saying like, oh, this character wins in a short fight or this character should win. It doesn't matter for like this situation. It shouldn't matter because Cell should be drastically more powerful. We're going back to our death battle fights, at least explanation wise. Another one, I know this pissed me off because when this happened, I'm like, no way, no way, no how. Was Chun-Li versus Tifa. Take a gander.
Huh. Tifa won that.
No.
Like, Chun-Li?
In the fight, in 1 Minute Melee, Chun-Li won. Or it was like, it might have been DBX or 1 Minute Melee, one of the two. But I could definitely, it's like, who's more popular? Because that's generally...
Yeah, it's they just kind of like scrap it as like, yes, 1 minute, no research, no nothing. That is literally popularity vote.
It was DBX.
Yeah.
It was
well,
DBX,
they still did the kind of same with 1 minute melee, sort of.
DBX 1 Minute Melee had at least the positive side. Like, not every fight's gonna end in a death. DBX, that's the whole point.
Yeah, they could just be knocked the fuck out.
Yeah. So, popularity-wise, I would probably say, yeah, Chun-Li is more popular than Tifa. Maybe. Like I said, I don't know. This was like 6 years ago when the fight was published.
The only way we could find out is if we go to Rule 34.
Where everyone wins. But...
who has the bigger fan base? Let's find out now.
Like, another one that was, like, really popular at the time, at least a couple years ago, just kind of like, again, going... We shifted from, like... Granted, like, versus fights are kind of like fanfic ideas anyways. It's just put into a visual form. We had another one. Do you remember Super Mario Bros. Z?
Yes.
So, I guess, like, a person on there was a really big fan of that. And they had Bowser defeat both Eggman and like the Super Mecha Sonic from that show. For 1 Minute Melee.
Yeah, that did not make sense.
Again, if it's
now,
popular...
people may be wondering, it's like, oh, why does that not make sense? Okay, first and foremost, Mario and Luigi, just outside of, the Z canon part, Mario and Luigi do not have a way to destroy robots.
At least in most of... Yeah, if we're not even going about that, because we're just going with the Super Mario Bros. Z canon. Because that's what the fight is based on. Everyone... Yeah. I mean, everyone was getting murked by freaking Super Mecha Sonic. And the only way that they were able to literally face him is when they had their super forms. And he was, like, I believe he didn't even have his super form. Like, everyone.
He did. Mecha Sonic did.
Yeah,
okay, so let me clarify. Let me clarify. So the final encounter of Super Mario Bros. Z was literally Sonic and Mario going hyper to defeat a Super Metallics or a Super Mecha Sonic. Because when everyone was in their super forms, Super Mecha Sonic was fucking everyone's shit.
And yeah, like, that's the whole point. It's like, oh yeah, that's the thing. He was just, like, murking everyone because, like, he was ganged up on by, like 10 different people, and he still won.
Yeah.
Like, he was
ganged up by a Super Sentai knockoff, and then he was also ganged up by Mario, Luigi, Shadow, Sonic, and Yoshi.
He also, I believe, fought the Super Koopa Bros as well. and he just
Yeah, which is literally a knockout version of Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. Yeah.
Yeah, and he defeated.
He murks them. He like full on murks them.
Well, to be fair, in the actual show, they get knocked out pretty quickly, and then they get killed on the island on the Yoshi's Island after Metallix blows it up. So
yeah,
and he just outright destroys the the Axum Rangers, I believe is what they're called.
Yep.
So like he absolutely like destroys them. So that would be like that example. But when like other like cases of like again like versus stories or I guess like versus animation is like yeah, a lot of these don't make sense because this is just like either pure bias or someone who doesn't know the lore.
Or someone who doesn't feel like going into the lore.
True. So another one, like you could do this in Blaze Blue Cross Tag Battle, but it's like Ragna versus Ruby. I'm like, no.
Who is the person? Who? Why do you hate Ruby so much?
I don't hate. All right, here's the thing. I don't hate Ruby all that much. It's just like
I'm saying because of the 1 minute melee is Ragna versus Ruby. It's like, why do you hate Ruby?
I believe in the 1 minute melee, Ruby wins.
Yeah, which she really shouldn't because Ragna is stronger than her. Silver Eyes don't do shit unless you're a Grim.
Which the Black Beast is clearly not.
No, it's not.
Because, like, here's the thing.
Now, unless they went more in depth of, how the Silver Eyes don't target Grim, but they target the negative emotions that birth the Grim, whatever their fucking backstory is, then that would make sense.
But that doesn't... Because, like, that doesn't even matter, I believe, to the Black Beast. Because the Black Beast is literally an amalgamation of just, like, Sather and magic. That is really, really hard to kill. Because, like, magic...
You know what? That's fair.
Like, magic and nukes do not work on it. You have to...
Not even a magical nuke.
Yeah, you actually have to break the laws of reality in order to kill it. But, yeah, that's, like, an example of, like... Those would be examples, like, quote-unquote, spite fights, where a character should very clearly win, but doesn't, because this character does not like this other character.
Yeah.
And that's just like 1 minute melee. If we want to do like DBX as another example, as in terms of popularity, they had Palpatine versus Xehanort, and it was
and Palpatine won.
Yes, they did have an alternate version where Xehanort won, but now that actually makes me very curious on who would actually win if they ever do a death battle on them. Because the Force is all-encompassing and very powerful, but they basically explain away in, what was it, Yoda versus Mickey, that...
It is very taxing on the person.
Yeah, whereas magic is not as taxing on the user unless it's healing magic, specifically. And even then, it comes back very quickly.
It 100% does.
And, like, imagine if it was, like, Xehanort specifically. And it's old man Xehanort with the Keyblade, and that's, like, the little fancy-looking key or chi for Greek or whatever.
My man talking about a fucking 10-foot key, literally talking about fucking a 3.5-foot wide Keyblade that is about 6 feet tall.
Yeah, it's about as tall as Xehanort, and it's, like, 3 feet wide, so...
Yes.
And again, that's just like an example.
Either way.
But then again, DBX is a popularity contest, not spite.
Yes. And I 100% say Xehanort wins because when you have that Keyblade, it is essentially you need the powers of friendship to win.
Yeah. I'm actually looking at some
If you don't, then you're just built different.
I'm actually looking at some of these now. I'm like, God, some of these are really dumb.
But some of them are really fucking cool. Like Sora versus Link.
That was 1 minute melee, but it was still very cool. But to be fair, if it was 1 minute melee, Sora should still win easily. Whatever.
Oh yeah, no, Sora still wins. But this was also Kingdom Hearts 2 Sora, and I don't know what time Kingdom Hearts was. Because Sora, like Ichigo, loses his fucking powers every new arc.
Yeah. But to be fair with Sora, it's at least explained in pretty much every game that he loses his powers in. Like from Kingdom Hearts 1 to what was it? Chain of Memories. Oh, to lose his Castle Oblivion literally makes him weaker. From 1 to 2.
Yes, because once you enter Castle Oblivion, everything you have learned has basically disappeared.
Yeah. In Chain of Memories to 2, Naminé had to give him back his memories, but she couldn't give him back his abilities. And it's
actually no, it's not that. It's not that.
Oh, what was it then?
It's because. So yes, it's because like Naminé had to give him back his memories because she destroyed his memories. It's because of the fact that Sora couldn't walk around with distorted memories. He had to be asleep for an entire year and a half.
Yeah.
And that's like a whole on sleep of you just doing nothing. And you have no memories of Roxas whatsoever. So you don't even know how Roxas fought.
Yeah, so we have that. We have 2 to the next immediate one, which was technically Dream Drop Distance, where Sora was a main protagonist again. And him and Riku... Sora and Riku, yeah. Sora and Riku in the story is like, hey, this is how to test on you in an unfamiliar situation, so we're going to take away all your powers again. So I'm like, okay, fair, you're testing them this time. If they went in there level 99 with all this, it wouldn't really be a test.
No,
and then
it wouldn't.
From Dream Drop Distance to technically, quote-unquote, 2.9 into 3, Sora almost got Norded in Dream Drop Distance, so therefore he lost all his powers again. So therefore he had to go regain them for 3.
Yeah. Another way to explain it is that Xehanort kind of took his powers, which is why Xehanort was able to do all the crazy shit despite him being old as fuck.
True. And those are just examples of we have gone so far from fan fiction at this point, and we already basically kind of gone over our kind of spite.
We've gone to tangents.
We were saying in terms of spite, because I just saw one on fanfiction.net of Yang versus Nero. I'm like, that's I'm hoping this is not a case of a spite fight. Where someone
Yang versus Nero?
Yang versus Nero. Yang from Ruby versus Nero from Devil May Cry.
Okay, I'm sorry, because I know another Nero from Black Clover, so I was like...
Isn't there also a Nero from Fate?
Nero Claudia.
Right. But that one's a woman, so...
She is also a woman, yes.
Yeah. So that, I'm just hoping...
Did I just lose brain cells when I said that sentence?
Huh?
Sorry, I felt like I just lost brain cells when I said that sentence.
And what sentence was that? Because I'm pretty sure we were both talking.
I said Nero is women, yes.
Yes. And
sorry, I probably didn't lose brain cells, but I just felt like the way I said it, I felt like I lost I just lost all manners of speaking. I just spoke in the most caveman way possible.
Yes. And I believe
Nero is woman, yes.
I want to say that basically kind of covers all our ideas of kind of fanfiction, what we wanted to talk about, and how some things that piss us off more on the not safe for work side, maybe I'll mark it.
Yeah.
And the other side.
I don't know. I don't think YouTube will let you go away with that, buddy.
I'm not talking about it, or I'm not showing anything, or I might. But I'm not going to put anything of the weird stuff.
Right. If you guys want to explore for the weird stuff, go for it. We can't tell if you did anyways.
Hey, this is not appropriate for kids, but hey, I won't tell anyone if you don't.
Yeah.
But yeah, that basically covers everything. If you want, if anyone out there, if you make fan fiction idea based off what we said, at least give us some credit. If you want to make money off it, go ahead. To say, hey, we got it from these two idiots.
The two dumbasses.
Yeah, so I feel
I
yeah
feel like
that
if we call ourselves, I feel like if we call ourselves two idiots, we're gonna get tagged by the three idiots.
oh no. But yeah, I feel like
So
that covers
how about we
everything.
go with this? How about we go with the safer option and call ourselves dumbasses instead of idiots?
You know what? Yeah, that's fair. So with that, I believe that covers it. I have a good day.
Yep. Good night, everyone, and hopefully I'm not too fucking tired.
Hopefully.